Welcome back, everyone, for our first official Video Game Book Club episode of 2025. If you listened last week to our half part, you will remember that we were diving into Zone of the Enders Part 2, the second... I'm sorry, Zone of the Enders 2. Nope. 2.
Yes.
The second runner.
Yep.
The names. And yeah, with that, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because I'm going to pass it over to Christian. It's his game. He's going to walk us and talk us through it.
So, also, I want to be clear here because I remember we kind of talked about it at the beginning. So this is not one of my normal sort of picks where it's like a game that I know is like, you know, or in my opinion is a slam dunk that I want to pass on to you guys.
Excuses already, okay.
I'm not making it. First of all, you can go back to when. I'm not even doing it. Anyway, no, I think this game is. I think this game is interesting because it is at the time the only other game that Kojima had created was Metal Gear, and then this.
Yeah,
that's it. Okay. It's weird. It's a lot like the PT thing, where like he comes out and he's like, "I've created a horror game for the first time now," and everyone was like, I didn't see that coming. Like, that's, you know, interesting. But it's similar to this way in that this was, like, his only attempt at, like, an action game. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of what he can... And, like, looking at... Because I know you guys... Neither of you guys have played Metal Gear, but you know enough about
gaming. I played 5.
Right, yeah. Oh, well, yes, sure, yeah. So you played 5, and then... But you've seen enough, like... Both of you have seen enough clips of Metal Gear in your life to know what Metal Gear looks like.
Yes.
And I played 1 on the PlayStation, and then everything else I've watched.
I played Rising.
My life. I played Rising 2.
Some would argue you guys have played the best one, which, like, hey, I'm in that camp, so there's that. But anyway.
Can I ask you a question as you're talking about this, too? Is there more than these two? Did he do all of these games, or is it just these two Zone of the Enders?
There's only these two. So there was a third one that he was developing, but then, and this to be, like, just to give everybody sort of an idea of the time of when this was sort of going on. So, Zone of the Enders 2 comes out shortly after Zone of the Enders 1. Radio silence, then basically forever. Obviously, Metal Gear, you know, after 2, like when 2 finally launches, skyrockets, and it's basically the only thing that Konami cares about, and they, you know, begin that whole era of their life. So in 2018 is when this remaster collection got dropped for Zone of the Ender. So it was 360, PS3, and then PC.
Okay.
And then shortly after PS4, and then they ported it forward for PS4, Xbox One. The Mars edition was in 2018. That was the one that the reason that they put the Mars edition on there was to sit, you know, it was crossing the gap to PS4 and Xbox One, but more specifically, it had the full game was playable with PSVR, and so you'll even see like during some of this playthrough, you'll see that they were talking about certain controls about being able to do certain things, but then it says only in cockpit view, and that is VR mode, because the full game is playable with VR. I don't know why in God's name you would want to do that, but
is cockpit mode as we're playing through this game, there's a couple of scenes that almost gives you like a binocular type view where you do see like the cockpit around, you have a viewfinder, and it does it for like the cutscene, and then immediately ejects you back out and you're third person.
Yes, that is what it would look like. Yeah,
gotcha.
And so there was a third one that was allegedly in development. It was, you know, he says that it was he was going to put it around like the halfway-ish mark. But it was all continued funding for the project was going to be based on how well both versions of this re-release sold. So the PS3 one and the PS4 one. And then obviously the Xbox and PC versions as well. It apparently did not hit Konami's internal sales numbers, so they canceled the project. Shortly after that, if we all remember, Metal Gear Solid 5 launched, and we all remember how that sort of went. He didn't even make it through the full life cycle of that game before he left Konami. So,
do you think then Because clearly there were some things going on at the time with him and why he ended up leaving. Do you think that Zone of the Enders 3 was doomed no matter what? Like, regardless of
that's what I'm getting is that I think that this remake or this re-release, like remaster, it could have sold a bazillion copies and it wouldn't have fucking mattered because
He still would have left.
Yeah, well, that he would have been asked because Kojima was a madman. He still is. I mean, like, he's getting, Death Stranding, like, I still want to go back because I want to finish it eventually, and like, but Death Stranding is one of the most ambitious things I've ever seen. Like, even if I think some of it is completely goofy and wacky and off the rails, but like, he got a blank check from Sony to make that game. There's no way Sony made their money back on that investment, but from a mind share perspective, I bet it pays them today because you never having that name attached to that and like doing that whole thing. But whatever Zone of the Enders 3 was going to be would have been stupid. It would have been not stupid as in a bad way, but stupid as in like from a cost perspective. It would have cost. It probably would have bankrupted Konami. Like there's no way the trajectory that Kojima was on, he would have spent all of the money in Japan to make whatever it is that he wanted to do. It's just it's mind blowing. That being said, all that to say, I think that the reason that this game going through it with this, like, it's very interesting. Like, you're looking at the only other title. I mean, after this game, Kojima did a couple other stuff, but up until this point, it was Metal Gear and then this, and that was it. And like, so looking at the thing, like some of the similarities between the two of them, and all this other stuff is it's very interesting to me. And I think this whole series, because of that, it's just interesting. So there's that, and I think that there's very.
I appreciate the picks when they're not just like, this is a slam dunk game, I want you to play it. Because I often pick things of just like, there was something behind this one time, let's talk about it. So, and that's how we...
So far you've just been picking...
Beyond Good and Evil. It ends up not being great. I don't know what to tell you.
So far, for your picks, we've just been traveling through Ubisoft's back catalog. But
chance, oddly enough, but yes.
Yes, I know, yeah. But yeah, there are really, like, there are things that I think are very cool in here, but I don't think it's not like it's not like an Ace Combat where I'm just like, every part of this is great. But yeah. Okay, so to that end though, I think we can all agree, basically from the opening of this game, it is clear that budget has increased.
Yeah.
We have full anime cutscenes now.
Yes.
They did a weird thing where they went between hand-drawn and CGI anime, and I did not like it.
CG anime?
Yeah, if you watch it, there were some of the robots, like some of the actual like shells and stuff were CGI or like 3D anime.
Okay.
Oh,
where the rest of it was like hand-drawn, and I did not...
Honestly,
personal thing. I'm just saying it wasn't.
No, I totally, because I'm the same way. That's just a style of anime that people like. There's tons of animes that do 2D within like a sprinkling of 3D. Like the new part of JoJo on Netflix does it. Now.
Demon Slayer does that, doesn't it?
Yes,
Demon Slayer does do it occasionally, and even when they do it, it stands out. And you're just like, why though?
Hey, look, it's a personal thing. Some people love 3D, some people don't.
I like it.
I feel you. I get it. But yes, it is very clear from the jump here. Budget has increased.
Yeah.
Kojima clearly had more than 6 people working on this fucking game now. So there's that. But yes, the game opens, and it is, I think, if I remember correctly, it's like 7 years past the events of the first game, is what it says, and we are given the perspective of a character named Dingo. And we
Dingo ate my baby.
We are given a control of a mining robot here at the beginning, and we are on a planet, and we are, out here just trying to make money. We're talking about some, the new space sports, new future sports, and
We never really say though, like we're just like the season comes up, and then like later on it's like, did so and so win the season? And you're just like,
this is the first thing that I wanted to touch on.
What
so
is this sport?
Some of the writing, like it is so funny how Kojima, even despite a completely made up fictional universe, like it's so far in the future that nothing is recognizable. We're in robots. Humans have traveled the stars now. You know, all this stuff, right? We're mining the moons of Jupiter, like all this stuff, right? Even then, he still has this like want to make a completely lived in and like fully realized world, but there's no, you can't, there's, it would take a game to be 50 hours long to be able to dive in, to be able to like try to explain all this. So instead he's just like the team, like, you know, like the Jupiter Broncos are playing the fucking Saturn whatever.
The script has insert team here, but he's like, no, let's put the team.
I forget what this whole dialogue was, and I should have written it down because it was one of my favorite parts where he was like, so and so's going to have a great year as like a person, and then the other person was like, I don't know, I think XYZ person is going to do it. And he goes, well, if you want to lose all of your money or all of your paycheck to me again. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
It's like, okay, so we're establishing here that everybody has a sports gambling problem in the future. Yes. Not unlike today. I could see how we get there. DraftKings is everywhere, so it stands to reason that it's just going to get worse as time goes on. But no, I do. So the other thing here is that immediately, because I know you guys are aware of, but immediately conversations take place in the Codex squares, because all of Kojima's games have to have Codex squares. So the people's faces are sitting there talking and doing these things.
You can move them.
Well, that's always been a thing, but yes, the PS1 games and the PS, like some of them were static images, but yes, there was for some of the more future ones, Kojima always introduced cameras into that part. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me, but hey, you know, player agency, do what you want. But yeah, so we're going over, and it's basically teaching us, general movement controls of this mining robot. We're going through, and it's basically Dingo going through flight checks basically, and he gets a signal that he's going to go check out. As we get through there, we fall into this giant. So there's like a cave-in, giant collapse. Dingo falls in, and when he comes to, lo and behold, what do we see here? But Jehuti, once again, finding an unwilling participant to pilot it, and it being somewhere it has no business being. And so an attack starts to take off with Bahram, who is obviously the antagonistic force from the first game. And they are clearly looking for Jehuti, and they are willing to blow up this entire planet to get there, to find it. And so you get inside Jehuti, and Dingo is quite at home piloting orbital frames, although we don't know why until a little bit later here. But it goes through. He gets familiar with Ada. He knows immediately, like, oh, so you're the battle AI that's like attached to this system. Word. No questions from me. I'm good. So then you go through the sort of the battle tutorial here, killing up some of the raptors, some of the general enemies from the first game, and then we are introduced to immediately one of the new powers, which is the like homing laser sort of thing. So there's a new enemy robot called the Mosquitoes. They're basically like little tiny fighters that just come out in these giant sort of like swarms. And Jehuti can hold the energy button to then sort of target all of them all at once, and then this giant beam of split out lasers goes and does them and tries to kill them. Very cool. And you're basically just looking at. I think that this whole tutorial is basically serves him being like, hey guys, look at how much better this looks than the first game. Sure. And that's really about it. And then right there, or right after that, as we keep going, one of our friends is trapped in a bad way. He's been getting shot by one of the Bahram ships, and one of the orbital frames is coming out to just shoot him for seemingly no reason. It's just he's a mining robot that has nothing to do with what's going on, but she's going to kill him anyway. And so we go in to save our friend, and we are immediately into a boss battle with Arjet. So you go through this fight. She has a couple of attacks that are similar to yours, but you fight her and get her about like halfway down. She goes to retreat, and you basically make the call like, "Hey, I'm gonna go chase this and try to like deal with this whole problem, or else they're just gonna keep coming back and killing us. Like, we have no option." And Dingo tries to have a very heroic line here at the end where the handler is like, what are you trying to say? And he's like, "Remember me," or something like that, and then just flies off. And she's like, the best part is her response is like, "What are you saying?" Like, she has no idea that he's about to try to go sacrifice himself. So he pieces out and gets inside the battle cruiser. More tutorial here. We're just going through and learning some of the new combat stuff. There's now grabbable items within the environment, so you can take these giant sort of like construction pillars and spike them at enemies to do massive damage.
Oh boy, is this game in the early stages so excited to have you grab and carry stuff.
It really wants you. It's like, hey, don't forget, you can grab stuff and you can throw it, and you can charge it up and throw it even harder if you really need to. But yeah, so you go through. We also see these new sort of like wormhole sort of like enemies that are basically like constantly spawning. They're like basically these warp gates just like feed in these fodder enemies, so you have to try to take care of them quickly, or else you'll just continuously be overrun all the time. As you make it into the next room here, you are immediately met by Nephidus, and who is it but our old friend from the first game. And so it's actually interesting, though, because and I'm now blanking on her name.
Viola,
thank you. But Dingo knows her from somewhere.
Thought that was strange until later.
No, because she says Jehuti, and he's like, "Is that Viola?"
No, and I thought that was strange that he knew her. I'm like, how the fuck does he know
strange.
her?
Sorry, yeah,
Until you
yes.
find out later on this part, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's some stuff that comes there, but yeah, it's very strange that he knows Viola, and it's weird that he seems like concerned that she's still kicking or any sort of way. But yeah, so we are basically having our first tutorial fight against her, and I mean, honestly, the name of the game here is just if you pick up a couple of these rebars and throw them at her, the fight's over basically immediately. And you fucking spear her against a door, and you're like, well, that's that, I suppose. And then Anubis shows up, and obviously the same general that is still piloting Anubis from the first game, he's still here, and he is not here to play games with you. You basically, the name of this game, or the name of this fight is just, it's a timer. You just survive till the time limit, and then afterwards he beats the brakes out of you, and takes Jehuti basically to the end. And we are full in on cutscene mode. He captures you and takes you out, so he realizes who you are, and this is where we sort of start to get that clearly Dingo has some sort of connection to Bahram in some way. So you're walking out, and you see the pilot from Arjet, and she is very upset that not only are you still alive, but that you're here right now, and she just straight up punches you in the face. And they start to argue, and before their argument can continue, much about, sort of the sort of particulars about where Dingo's been, why he left Bahram, whatever, the general shows up, and he basically tells Dingo, like, hey man, I'm just gonna be very clear with you. You can either rejoin us. I want you to come back, and we can do stuff together. Like you have, it's been a little while. I'm willing to forgive you leaving, doing this, whatever. Just come back, and you can pilot Jeopardy. I'll pilot Anubis. We'll do our things. We'll take over. It'll be great. Dingo basically tells him to fuck off, more or less, and says that he wants no part of this. And so the general just shoots him and says, job done. That's fine. You don't want to join me? That's cool. You're dead. Then the pilot for Arjet sort of leans in and is basically like, hey, I'm going to save you, but you got to work with me. And then Dingo passes out. He comes to...
This scene had the weirdest gravity I've ever seen. Like, they're walking down this hallway, and, like, she punches him and all this. All of a sudden he gets shot, his blood starts floating, and then when he falls back, she just grabs him by, like, the stomach and just, like, starts carrying him floating. Like, what the fuck is this gravity in this space station?
It's mag boots. It's just mag boots.
The Expanse. Like, you click your heels together 2 times and you get to stick to the floor.
But they never show it.
No,
they just like...
Yeah, but they talk about it's just mag boots. It's just mag boots. That's it. It's just mag boots. But yeah, so she takes him, and Dingo comes to, and he is now fully fused to Jehuti. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. This is fucked up to do to somebody.
I
100%.
am so unhappy with his role, his
current predicament,
his forced role in this. Like, we can talk about this moving forward. Every time she's like, let's do this, I just want to be like, fuck, like, I don't want to be here. And
and to be fair, I think Dingo does. He does a very good job of every step of the way. He's very upset with her.
It's just it's real messed up.
Yeah. So she saves his life, but the suit and everything that's basically holding Dingo together is basically being force-fed power by Jehuti. So he is completely...
He has to stay in it.
He has to stay in it. If he leaves that robot, that's it. If the power to that suit stops, he's donezo. And so
he's like, let me die. And she's like, no. I'm like, how? That's so mean.
It's very fucked up. I totally agree. Yes. But yeah, and he's like, I would rather die than work with Bahram again. And she's like, she basically goes on this whole thing of she's not Bahram. She's a sleeper agent from the Space Federation. And they are trying to stop Bahram, and she needs his help. Blah, 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 blah. Dingo still pretty unwilling, but is like, if then I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I'm not staying on this goddamn station. Then that's basically where he's at. So she says
this is peak Kojima too, because you're writing any story you want. You could have just like, he gets shot, he gets patched up. When he comes to, she says, "Hey, I patched you up. This is what we're doing. We're fighting the good fight. Help me." It gets you to the same end as, oh, you are now a Borg, part of this ship, and can't leave. Like,
so this is
so ridiculous.
So remember, this is the man that gave us Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5, right?
Yeah.
A woman who breathes through her skin because of reasons.
That's why she doesn't wear a lot of clothes.
Well, it's so she can be naked in the
and so it's sometimes like some of his character designs are so, or character motivations even, are so convoluted. Like they where you're just like, you could have easily just said this to get to where you wanted, but you had to think of a crazy ass reason. And so it's like, well, why would Dingo agree? And it's like, well, because he dies if he doesn't. And so then you're like, well, what if she just convinced him though? He's like, no. He dies if he leaves the robot. And
but he also was okay with dying, so I mean, he could just.
Well, yeah, he was. I think he was in the minute, but I think that I don't think he wants to die.
Of course.
But yes, in the moment, he was very much like, fine, then just fucking kill me. And she's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So.
Well, and I think it was also that was more the statement of like, I didn't ask you to save me. Like,
you could have just let me die.
I didn't want to die, but also like, I didn't ask for this. Like, is this really better? And it was just,
Yeah, so but yeah, it's very fucked up, and it's crazy how like so even you can see and I will appreciate this part of the design is so obviously part of Jehuti's design like we talked about in the previous video, but there's these constant energy pulses that are constantly just like flowing through, right? And you can see during the conversation window those energy pulses are now you see that flowing through Dingo's suit, like he is a part of that robot, and so. But yeah, so she basically says, hey, there's another Space Federation agent here, and he's stuck on this ship, but he has part of a weapon that we are going to need called the Vector Cannon, which, just spoilers for ahead of time, this is probably one of my favorite weapons ever, like designs in video gaming, so it's very cool, but it's also a great name.
Sounds like a Dragon Ball move.
It does. It really does. It does sound like a Vegeta move.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, a robot weapon called the Vector Cannon that can take down ships and other things is cool as fuck. So, but she says that he's holding intel for that. It needs to get back to the Space Federation, but he's never going to get off this ship without our help. And so we agree that we will help him out here. And so this is where we start out. So we go down the corridor and we basically find Taper. He's hiding in one of the sort of cargo containers that are on this ship. And here is sort of like the first sort of like puzzle, things like that. Preston, I don't know about how this happened for you. Yeah, I don't know how this worked for you, Alex. When I was talking to... So this is probably the longest part of the playthrough for me, mostly because I forgot about this puzzle's existence. Preston shot the first thing that he saw, and it was right.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a puzzle, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? I'm like, so I shot, and like, it got one of the crates, and it's like, okay, move on to the next section. I'm like, okay, and then it's like, well, something red. I'm like, okay, we're looking for red. Or was it something in Unit B? I'm like, okay, we're looking for B. First one, got on the first try, wasn't even paying attention. I just shot in the air.
Wait, and the guy was in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could do that. I shot one, and it's like, we're looking for blue, and then like I shot another. It's like with a number 1 and 9 on it. And I got to the next room, and it was like blue and a 1 to 9. They're like with a 5, and I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
So this is the more times that you miss, the more hints they'll give you to basically try to point you in the right direction.
So I thought it was, and that means I did not get in the first try. So I thought it was there was 3 different areas that you had to shoot the certain crates.
Oh, okay.
So I just shot
Preston just
one,
did it as
and
he did
go
it.
next room then.
He just did it. He did it the way you're supposed to.
No, yeah, I did what I was supposed to. Yeah, no.
That's funny.
Miscommunication.
Yeah. The way you described, because I thought he got on I was like, that's incredible. So to be clear, yes, you can, if you know which one it is, like if you can shoot it in that first room. But yes, so we find the container that Taper's in, and we get him out of there, and then now it is an escort mission basically towards the escape pods of this ship, where we are carrying him in between rooms and then dropping him so that we can fight enemies.
Boy, are we.
And then take him.
It's a B mechanic, man. Grab. They wanted you to play with it.
Let me tell you, escort missions, always fun, no matter what game you find them in. They're just the best every time. Yeah, I hate escort missions. But, so we very quickly, I basically, the trick, I just drop him at the front of the room where no enemies are.
Same.
And then I just wipe out all the enemies, and then I move on and take him.
Yeah, I did the same.
But yeah, so we get him out.
One thing, though, you can accidentally target him as well.
Yes, you can.
So, like, when I was in there trying to retarget and, like, realign, like, which guy I'm aiming at, there was a couple times where I'm just shooting at him, like, oh, sorry. For some reason, I wanted to target you. I'm like, why are we targeting friendlies? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, it's very silly.
The auto-targeting is brutal in this game.
Yeah. I don't really have them, but yes, it can bounce you around a lot if you are trying to jump through enemies and stuff. But yes, you can target him, and it's
bad.
You will shoot him, yes, and you will do real damage to him. Yeah, he doesn't have like a chunky health bar, but yeah. So we get him and shoot him out, and the best part is that Dingo is not really comfortable with saying that he's working for the Space Federation or with he doesn't want to say that he's like not. He's like, hey, I'm just with the Space Federation. And then Taper will be like, well, what are you doing? Like, who are you with? Like, name a person. And he's like, shut the fuck up. I'm helping you. And Taper's like, well, that's true, but I don't know. This is still weird. Like, I'm not really feeling this. But as soon as Viola shows back up, it is time, and this guy stops asking questions. He gets in the escape pod. He launches out, and then we basically fly straight down to the planet. We just re-enter the atmosphere with Jehuti just straight up. But we get off that ship, and now we are on Mars. So immediately from landing, we are met with a new style of enemy, and so we sort of, because we are given a new weapon by Taper called the Geyser, which is like, hey, it basically locks down enemies that can move too fast, and then you can have a chance to go and do what you want. That obviously, of course, leads to a new tutorial where a really fast-moving enemy orbital frame type comes at us. You use the Geyser, they stop moving, you beat the shit out of them, and then you move on. We get 3 of those before we are met with our next boss fight, and that is Vic Viper. So Vic Viper is a transforming orbital frame, similar to some of the ones that we saw in the first game, but he has a sort of like regular frame mode, and he also has a plane mode, like a jet, and has different weapons for each one.
Can we talk about this really quick? I'm sorry. There's just something I have to bring up here. So not all of these can transform. Like, can we transform into a plane?
No. Jehuti cannot transform into a plane.
Okay. So, like, the design on these orbital frames, if they don't all transform into planes, they all don't need giant robot dicks. And dude,
I did not notice at all.
Go, you will next time.
I will definitely next time. I'm looking, but I don't know.
All of them have giant robot dicks, and sometimes the camera, they purposely do it like the cutscenes like a little below and stuff. And it was really bad with the girl, the Viola, and like the purple or whatever. But this guy makes sense, right? Because he transforms. Even though Transformers figured this out, the point of the plane goes to the back. But whatever, his transforms, it goes to his dick. But like all the others, it does. Just watch it if you watch the cutscene again. And that made sense. Poor planning, but it made sense. But the other people just have like giant robot dicks for no reason.
It is where the cockpit is at. Look.
Wait, the cockpit's in the robot dick?
It's called a cock.
Yeah, see, and I knew by you saying this, you invited that joke. But yes, that is where the control point is. Like that's the main.
I always thought it was the head.
No, will you even watch Leo fall into that in the first game, like in that first cutscene?
It didn't bother me as bad as the first game.
Jehuti's head doesn't have a giant like copper shield on it.
Yeah, probably because like the first game, we watched it A and then B, like just the animation wasn't as good, right? But this one, it's so noticeable. And Preston, just because like we need it, I will share a few like images into our general chat.
Do find those for me so I don't have to look at for myself.
They're just giant. Well, just again, pay attention the next time you're playing the game, because it just stands out to me. And the whole time I'm just like, fucking why? Like, why do I need a giant robot dick in front of me? Anyway, continue, please.
Yeah. So I think the design of these robots is incredible. So the placement of that of the cockpit doesn't bother me. But I agree, it is right in that spot. But yeah, so we fight Vic Viper. As we get him down, we get him basically almost towards the end of his health bar, and the pilot ends up talking to us. Ada actually calls out and is pretty sure that she knows who this is, and lo and behold, it is our old friend Leo.
Yes, it is.
So Leo is working with the Space Federation, and He was part of the team that has been trying to get Jehuti back. He even directly tells Dingo, just give me the fucking frame. Like, just give me Jehuti so I can do what I need to do. And Dingo basically says, like, hey, man, I wouldn't give this to you anyway, but I can't even if I wanted to, because if I get out of this seat, I die. So that's not going to happen. Ada starts talking to Leo there, too, so he knows. And Leo then immediately gets on the defensive and starts asking Dingo if Ada has told him what her primary function is. And Dingo's like, no, I was not aware. Leo gets very upset and basically is like, she's going to kill herself. She's going to go to the factory on Mars, detonate it, and blow the whole thing up. And this is sort of where we get sort of the rundown on the sort of, like, functions between Jehuti and Anubis and the, like,
synergy
overall sort of weapon called Arma or Armon, I think is what it is. Hold on, let me look here.
I didn't realize until after I shared all these photos that you're right, that is where the cockpit is.
Uh-huh.
And I also, Preston, thought it was just the head, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's just the erect phallic robot cockpit.
If that is okay, if that's what that is not, it's not a phallic shape. It's very pointed. It's like if your dick is a giant triangle, you have to go to a doctor immediately. Get off this podcast.
Wait, you don't have a triangle dick?
It looks like two people are going to the doctor today.
Hey, gets the job done.
Alman, that's what it is. So the weapon is called Alman, and they describe that. So Jehuti and Anubis are basically two keys to unlocking this giant sort of like world-ending weapon that will, whoever has control of it will basically sort of control everything, more or less. Not unlike Metal Gear.
Right.
Because Kojima loves to have his giant sort of unbeatable weapons here. But yeah, so and Nomen is the general who we were talking about earlier. He has control of Anubis right now, which is why every single time that Anubis and Jehuti meet, they have like this weird resonance sort of thing, and it's because there's supposed to be two pieces of a key that sort of unlock the whole potential of this thing. And so as they start, breaking down all of this sort of story with Leo and everything like that, Leo basically and everybody basically is like, okay, well, like, do me a favor, like, we're gonna, like, just keep working, like, don't let her, blow herself up for no reason and blah blah blah. But more or less, it's like, well, hey, you're. I can tell that you're a great pilot, so like let's all work together, sort of get this job done. And Leo flies off and basically is like, I got my own stuff to take care of, so now you can keep going. So now the next mission that we have is that we are going to try and get to this like main base, but one of the things that we have to do is sort of break down like the sort of control systems that's holding like these two separate parts of this like gate that we have to go destroy to get through there, to like sort of travel through without alerting the security systems. We are trying to get to that place, so we have those two locations to destroy. So we go through there. We are both of those fighting. We have two new enemy types. So we have the returning of the Narita types, which is the ones that we slow down, and then we are also introduced to the commander types enemies, which is a returning thing from the first one, where they level up from the first game, or they level up all of the enemies around them. So you want to take them out first, so that everybody, like all the other enemies, sort of de-level that are around them. But we also are given a new weapon by Leo, which is I don't remember what it's like I don't remember what the weapon name is, but it's the punch. So it's basically like a knockback. So you punch one of the enemies, and then if they hit the ground or the wall, it will do double damage to that enemy based like if they hit sort of like a barrier or
It's like a
anything like
shotgun
that.
blast.
Yeah. So we get through doing that, and we are met with Viola again. This one is more of a real fight than the tutorial one, though. So we have her in sort of a, like, the Thunderdome, essentially. It's like this giant, like, all these walls of electricity. We are... whenever we see that there's, like, this sort of, like... Whenever she's, like, charging forward... So, at first, the first part of this fight is that Dingo even says, like, hey... I don't have a way to, like, stop her. Like, there's nothing, like, this charge attack, I can't do. And it basically is introducing a new part of the grab mechanic where Ada tells you to grab one of, like, basically, like, the metal shielding off of one of the walls. She's like, if you use that, we can power it up with, like, the guard thing. It'll stun her, and then you can get your attack off. So you do that for most of the fight until you get her down to about, like, 25%. You will then go to the next phase, which is now we've traveled to a new arena. We're following her through, and there's these giant sort of electrical pillars everywhere that are we're stuck in. And now the name of the game is, hey, when she dodges at me, I'm gonna get out of the way, or when she rushes at me, I'm gonna get out of the way. She's gonna slam into the electrical wall, and then you can continue your combos and do that. And yeah, so then we go through, fight her, and finally take out Viola here. And Dingo basically goes and gets some lore from Ada here, which is basically like, hey, Leo fought her and killed her. She died, like, re-entering Jupiter's atmosphere, so she's done so. But what you've been fighting is a battle AI that Braham that created of her. Then the only thing that battle AI knows is that it wants to fight Jehuti real fucking bad and kill it, and that's it. Which is kind of fucked up to do. But yeah, so they do that. But you kill her or kill that AI. Get to that, and then we leave off with after we sort of break through the energy barrier that they had everywhere. It leads us to the sort of where we left off, which is we have Taper. He's back again, and the rest of his crew are being attacked by a bunch of the spider unmanned sort of frames, like the little ones from the tutorial, and they are just like annihilating everything around them, and blowing up tons of houses and all this other stuff. And Dingo's like, yo, what the fuck, man? Like, there's casualties, and the guy basically is like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we have to kill all these things around here. And so Taper asks to please help them, because he's like, hey, man, he's doing this because we're surrounded, like all this other stuff. Can you please help them? So Dingo's like, I'm going to try to help them, but I'm also going to try to save, all of the colonists that are around here all at the same time. But that is where we leave off. So that is that. Alex, before we get into how everybody felt, I just want to double check for this next part. How long did this take you?
Right. I think you said an hour 45 is what it took you. I think it took me like an hour 57 or maybe an hour 51 or something.
Cool.
It was right
Okay.
around the same.
And Preston was right around an hour 45 with me. So that works. So then, just as a heads up for everybody, this next time we're just going to finish this game.
Oh.
So.
Oh shit.
There is,
okay.
So we are ending on, just for everybody who knows, like this walkthrough we're looking at to judge parts, we're ending on 5.1 of the walkthrough. There's only 10.2 parts total, so we're just going to just do the other half.
This was a full game, not something built onto a demo of something else.
Correct. Yes, this is a game that had Metal Gear. Well, no, yeah, yes, correct. This was a full release by itself. Right. Yes.
Short game. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, now again, you're meant to like there's there's New Game Plus on this game. There is also like multiple difficulties that get unlocked after you finish this game the first time. So it's like your typical Devil May Cry sort of like action game thing that they're doing here. But yes, so obviously for me, I will just say really quickly that I think that while the writing is improved from the first game, I still think it still feels like there are some localization issues in the conversation piece. Only sometimes. It's not as bad as the first one, but there's definitely some times where you're like, that can't be what was intended.
That gambling one I made a comment of at the beginning, that was one.
Well, so here's the thing: is that I don't know that one. So I would say that one doesn't strike me as a localization issue. That strikes me as a writing issue. Like that one strikes me as like a Kojima wants to make people think that this world is lived in and real, but I don't have time to explain anything.
No, yes, yes, you're right. But also, if you go back and just listen to like the delivery and how it's done, it's there's definitely some localization pieces that made those things so funny. It's like if you want to give your paycheck, it's just like
okay. Yeah, it is very weird.
All right. Yeah.
But so things for that. So I think. So far, I love, and I know you guys, we didn't play the first game, but you guys saw it, but I think that the combat is much improved. I love the expanding on all of the different features there. I think that all of the designs are very cool. I think having Viola's robot or orbital frame be like kind of fucked up and have like a bunch of like metal like sort of like reshafted to it and like these different things to try to look like the old version, I think was a nice touch. I think it was, you see Leo come back and you're like, oh, there's that. And he even makes a comment about the first game, right? Where he's like, yo, Dingo makes a comment where he's like, if you had Jehuti before, then why the fuck did you, like, what am I doing with it, basically? Like, what happened? And he's like, well, I didn't get a say in it. Like, Elena went, and then he was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. You don't know any of these people that I'm complaining about. I'm just going to move on. Which I thought was like a funny nod to the first game where it was like, hey, nobody played that first game, so I'm not going to... Anyways, like, you don't know any of these people I'm talking about, and they moved on. But yeah, I think the combat's great. There's all the designs for the robot, or for the orbital frames, I think is really cool. I love a lot of the enemy designs. They all look super sleek and cool and different things. It really feels like the guy who does, I forget his name now, but the guy who does all of the art for like the Metal Gear games, things like that, all of the art that Kojima does for like the Metal Gear games and different stuff always is very striking, and it feels like this game is just built on all of the like those kinds of designs.
I was looking up the concept art for some of the thumbs, and those are 100% that guy. I love that style.
Yeah, though the artwork on the boxes and stuff is very like what a mono is to Final Fantasy.
Yes,
like,
he is that same.
Kojima.
Like I said, I don't remember his name, but he is just like he's just as famous as Amano. Like he is that to Kojima stuff. Like that he's always doing his art. And it's
Yoji Shinkawa.
Shinkawa, thank you. Yes. His art is incredible, and it feels like it really comes to life in this series where it's just everything is so striking. Like there's just so many fucking sharp angles on everything, and it's just this very sleek everything sort of look to these or these orbital frames. It's very cool. But yeah, so that was the first part. So what do you guys think?
I had fun with the combat. I do like the dynamic combat you get with a melee sometimes, to where it's like you'll be going to strike a guy and he might either parry you or dodge you, but also like the camera doesn't move, but your characters will. So they'll do this like little ballerina dance, which I think is very cool. I think it's a very cool way to kind of do that without like giving you like essentially motion sickness. Because if you were doing that in first person, or if you were doing that to where like it's stuck to the back of that figure, your camera would be going all over the place, blurring shit, and it'd be kind of weird. But this one's like, okay, I'm hitting the melee button, and you hear chink, 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 and then it kind of goes around, and they fly around each other, and it's really cool. Some of the range stuff just seems kind of off. Like, they definitely want you to try to get in close outside of a couple of the items that you have. I couldn't tell you how many times I was trying to load up my spirit bomb and I just get hit with one little tiny bullet. It's like, nope, restart. I'm like, fuck. The spirit bomb is very nice because you can get some area damage with it. So like the little spawner like portal thing you guys are talking about, like I kill those things with the little spirit bombs every time because usually there was an enemy around as soon as I start that charge up. Maybe one pops out, but as soon as I throw that bomb at it, it destroys whatever popped out of it. So that was really nice. Dialogue and the story seems fine, but the dialogue itself, yes, it's of the era. Yes, it's due to some like localization, but also it's also the very shitty like late 90s, early aughts reluctant hero kind of deal with Dingo, to where it's like, I don't want to be here. I shouldn't fucking have to do this and that. But yeah.
So I'm glad you said that time
not
frame.
like the main guy. But I didn't like the main character in the first one either.
Because this game is from 2019.
No, well, it's not. It's
No, it's
not.
not.
That, I mean,
know.
it's the
I
remaster,
know.
but it's not.
I
But
know.
I'm glad you said that era because what it really feels like to me is like if you got, and I know
It's like
like
Outlast
Preston
Star
for sure.
or something like that, to where it's like, it's always like
Yeah,
the
like,
hero,
you'll-
but he's always kind of like, I don't fucking want to do this. I'm an
But-
asshole. I'm going to say some shitty things.
But more specific, it feels like if like back in the day, like if you were sitting there and you get on Toonami, and then like a random anime is on, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" And then you get on, you watch it, and you're like, this is interesting," you know, whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
your engagement could go one way or the other. But it's one of those like random like midnight to 2 a.m. animes
It's
that
not
would pop up.
Gundam, but it's kind of Gundam.
Yeah. And you're just like, all right, like what is this? And and then you spend years of your life being like, God, there was this one time I saw this one show and I don't know what the fuck it was, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody's like, are you talking about blah, blah, blah? And you're like, what the fuck? And it's this whole thing because it was just like that random one night sort of fever dream for you. That's what this feels like. But it definitely feels like a 90s, 2000s anime.
Where
That
everyone
somebody,
wanted to make their main character Han Solo at the reluctant hero.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
guys, I get
That
it,
somebody
I get
like-
it. He's edgy.
that somebody did like a fan dub of and then it got released.
He's not dark edgy. He's just like sassy asshole edgy.
Yes. Yeah, that is Dingo for sure. Now, to be fair, he is put in a position where I think a lot of people would be sassy, but yes, I agree with you.
Good point, yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty. The dialogue is also funny. I still cannot get over the cockpits and how just some of the shots, dude, they just stuck out to me. And I'm like, why is this thing so massive? It makes sense now because where the cockpit is, I didn't know that before. I thought like that was in their head, and then I was really like, what purpose does this serve? So I get it. Doesn't make it any better. It's much prettier. I like the action. I do agree with Preston. I think a lot of times they want you to be melee. Like there was a ton of times where I would be strafing back and forth, or I'd be in the back trying to shoot like the kind of fat bulbousy creatures that are
the
like
shielded ones?
and then you
Yeah.
break the shield
lasers,
off.
yeah.
I would like be targeting them, and then it would just like auto target to something else or whatever, and I have to like fly in and beat it down to really do anything. So that's all fine. I think we'll see by the end of this. I think right now I'm still safe to say this sort of game is still not for me.
Oh, sure.
And it's something about like
You just hate mechs.
the way. Yeah, it's just something about the way like I'm strafing back and forth, and like every room I come in, I have to like refight the same fucking enemies, and they're just like throwing enemies over and over. I'm just like pounding the hit or the strafe. I don't know. It's just something about it, and I'll pay more attention. I'll actually
So were you
think
not?
about
So
it.
did you not like Devil May Cry or anything like that either?
No, I mean I love Devil May Cry. I played all but. I didn't play the DMC like the remake or whatever, but like
Well, you don't
I
need that,
did
whatever.
all of 1, all of 2, all of 3 on PlayStation 2 when they came out and stuff. I had them all. Like, yeah, I love those
They're not
games.
robots, Christian.
I know, but I'm saying combat wise, it's just that it's as fast as Devil May Cry.
It's not the speed. It's not the speed. It's more of, and again, I'll have to like really try and put thought to it as I play. But it's like the strafey, the movement, like
You
the
also have the
strafey and the
vertical
up
unit
and the
as well,
down
yeah,
and the
axis, yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
It's actually just like the mech movement, right? And I made that comment to you guys when you were playing Armored Core. It's the skatiness of it.
So,
Yeah,
so
well,
Armored Core, I think,
I've never
nails
been
it as far as
into-
feeling smooth and like doable. This one, it's like okay, it feels weird because you're going and they got to press Y to go up, and it's kind of stilted, kind of disconjointed because they didn't really nail the feel of it just yet in this era. And I'm not like, I don't want to ever like compare this to Armored Core, the new Armored Core, because they're so far and away from each other. It's just not fair. But when you're talking about like how the feel of it, I think Armored Core nails it. I think this gets it close, but it still had left something to be desired.
So I think they're going for two different things. So
Oh, sure.
Armored Core is like heavy, like as in like you can go fast, but
It requires momentum to go fast.
yes, even when you're going fast, the game still makes it feel like a 5-ton robot is strapped with rockets and you're going across. But like, there's momentum to it. Like, there's forward sort of like even if I have all my boosters going, as soon as I let go of them, my robot still keeps going. Like, it's a heavy piece of metal that's flying through the air. Whereas like this is like anime fast. Like it's like it's like Dragon Ball.
Exactly.
Like I can go as fast as I want, and then I stop on a dime. Like, it's supposed to be like, you know, it would depend on how you guys are playing it, but it's like, Jehuti moves like it weighs a pound. Like, it is like super fast and agile and can spin on a dime and do all those other things. Like, it's going for, I think there are two different styles of like what a mech can move like, right? Like, Gundam is like that. Like, Gundam is like ultra fast. Everybody's moving around. They've got laser swords and they're doing all this other stuff. Like, I think it's like the two schools of thought, right? Like, Gundam does not move like Armored Core does, but I don't know that they're supposed to. Like, I think it's just what they go for.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying one's better or worse. I'm not saying that they're not doing or they are doing what they want. Just for me, something about like, you know, in the fight, I find myself, because you can move the camera up and down, which is easier than like flying up and down, right? Just like move up and fly that direction. But I just find myself like pressing the B button to like jet right, shoot, jet left, right? So I don't know. It's something about the gameplay. Again, I'll continue to think about it, but just the feel of it. I played it. I did the whole thing. It was fine. I just, the whole time felt to me more like a chore than an enjoyment, which just says like, hey, it's something about this is just isn't for me right now, right? The story is good. I did get a little frustrated. The only thing I got frustrated on was the boss fight, because I could not, where I was trying to knock Viola into the laser wall, I could not knock that bitch to the
I kept knocking
wall.
myself
like,
into
I did
that
it,
wall.
So I died once. So I did it the first time. Like the first fight, I was like knocked her in like 3 times and got her down to a sliver health. But then she knocked me into it and also got me down and I died. The second time I went through it, I could not like I was like, I don't know what I was doing the last time. I can't figure this out. I keep punching her and she like gets right up to it and then like misses and then zooms somewhere else. I'm like, bruh. But it was fine. Like the game itself has been fine and it seems like it's doing what it set out to do. Now, I didn't understand it so short, so I'm really interested to see how they tie the story together and how they make it impactful in a short amount of time.
Considering that he had a sequel planned that got canned,
right?
Who knows?
I'm more interested. I'm more interested to see now because like a lot of fights have happened, but not a lot of stuff has happened.
A lot of explanation.
So and knowing Kojima usually has a big scope, and if this seems like it's going to be more for a tiny scope, so I'm interested to see where the story goes. That's all I'm gonna say. So yeah,
for me, I think that the gameplay of this game totally. I think there's two things that come down to taste, right? Like I think it's the style, like the speediness of the style of it, and then I think it's also the design part of it, right? So on both those things, like I love the Dragon Ball-ness of it. Like I love the fucking instant teleporting, like crazy fast hyper action shit like that. I'm into that. But then the second piece of it is I also think like all of the designs for this, like even down to the weapon design, like the giant energy ball getting fucking volleyballed at people, like all of that stuff works for me. It feels like, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this, but it feels like Kojima had an idea of making his own mecha anime and was like, I'm gonna do it, and this is what I want it to be, and then was like, that's it. Like,
which is why I say it's gonna be interesting to see where the story goes. Like this is the same guy. I mean, remember everything. You're true. I remember everything you did in Death Stranding 1, but also like in Death Stranding 2, you have the dude playing the guitar, shooting lightning bolts out of it with like a fucking ninja that jumps in the
There's
room.
also, I mean, don't forget, like if we're trying to point at weird things, like this is also the creator of Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Like, so
we're gonna see where this goes. But it does feel very, very
the series that's known for having a cybernetic samurai who's the lightning. So you know, like
Psycho Mantis, right? Like it just this seems very contained and tame for him. We'll see what happens. I'm interested.
Does it though? You think?
Compared to the other shit, but to be fair, he's a lot more time to go crazy with Metal Gear.
But
True,
again, here's the thing.
You had
Here's the
5
thing.
games.
Like we're like this game opens with somebody being strapped into a robot for life on life
That's
support, and they are giant, these like crazy ass robots with a second robot through a mind link of things that nobody can really explain just yet, connect to each other to then unlock the potential of a world-ending weapon. Are we sure? It feels like it's already
It
kind
needs
of
more
pushing
time
off
to
the
make it more
rails.
convoluted is what it needs. So.
That's fair. That's fair. So, did you guys? We did not do the mission, or we were not supposed to do the mission where you saved the people, right? Or did we do?
No,
No,
we
we
ended at that
stopped
cutscene.
Yeah.
That? Okay. Well, I did that part.
Of course,
just
That's fine. Of course you did, he says.
He does that from time to time.
Well, I was waiting for like a hard stop, and you don't really have like a hard stop
Yeah.
there. So anyway, I just so everybody can do better than me, I saved 62% of people. Not a great success rate. Like you had you had a 40% chance of getting killed on my watch. Is all I'm saying.
That's brutal. But yes. So also just as a heads up, like I said, we're going to go to just finish this straight up. Like most of these levels are just about the same amount of length as the one that we just had, like with Leo. Just to put your brain at like going to those 2 points, like that's generally the level thing. Honestly, the rest of this will just depend on your ability for like different boss fights and things like that. If for whatever reason you are having trouble with these fights or whatever, that walkthrough that I linked to will tell you, best strategies, whatever it is, if you run into them. Otherwise, it should be round about this same amount of time. It could be a hair longer depending on it, but either way, I would just don't save it for a single day. I would just allow yourself to, if you either get stuck or have trouble on a boss or whatever, don't save it for a single session. But we should be able to finish it by this next one.
Cool. All right, everybody. Well, there you go. This will be a 2.5-parter, if you will, right? Next episode, we will be finishing up Zone of the Enders 2, the second runner. And if you've played it, we'd love to hear your thoughts if you played it, so let us know in chat. Sure. Otherwise, tune in next week as we finish this up. And with that, Preston, you know what to do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.